I think we will go ahead and get started. So it looks like everyone understands the chat function on this. Mike will be presenting and telling us about weatherizing our homes, which, although the weather is spectacular right now, is a really great skill set to have in the bag, especially when you have a house, an older house, or, well, even a new house. So these are all really great things for Mike to share with us, and we're grateful to have him share this. So without further ado, I guess, Mike, I'm going to let you take it away. And then everyone, if you have questions during the presentation, just write in the chat box and I will interrupt Mike and ask those. So
feel free to ask as we go. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely want to encourage that. So yes, thank you. Thank you, Anna. And thanks so much for the chance to be here. And I'm going to hide my thumbnail video so I can see this. So my organization is Southface. We have been around since 1978. And I think if you're in Atlanta, you probably at some point have maybe heard of us. But I have been with the organization for about next month will be 25 years. So, you know, I don't know, one day I'm going to grow up, but it's been a great job. I really enjoy it. I get to do a lot of our technical training. This is one of our training facilities, and some of it's hands-on and kind of stuff that we're talking about today. Other aspects are more design-oriented. But there's my email, and you can certainly feel free to email me if you have any questions or follow-up. And that's our main campus. We're in Midtown, near the Civic Center, basically Piedmont and Pine Street, kind of in that area. So, and I came along in 1975 and helped build this building, which looks like a yellow house. I wasn't involved really for the design, but I did help build it. And then this building, the Eco Office, I don't know when we say it was officially finished, probably in the 2008 era. And it's a LEED Platinum, we call it our Eco Office. And it's got a really cool atrium that connects it. And if you get a chance someday, come and visit. There's all kinds of cool energy and water saving features that make our campus really cool. Then we try to walk the talk, and we have very, very efficient, this office building is unbelievably efficient with really good natural daylighting and rainwater capture that we use. We don't use any potable water for sewage conveyance and all kinds of fun stuff. So let me see. And one thing I wanted to make sure I pitch, just so I thought I'd put this up, is we did a series of building science webinars. I think there's a dozen of them, and we did these through this month. And I think we just said we kind of have to take a little break from it, but we hope to bring them back next year on topics, many of which are related to what we'll be talking about today. So there's some that are sort of concept ones, and some that are fairly technical, but we try to make them for everybody. And I just got this in a email that passed by my inbox on Friday, and someone said, I watched the one about ventilation. There's actually two on fresh air for homes, and people felt like, they said they felt like it was easy to follow, and that was good. That's what our goal was, to get people excited about. So that's all on our website, southface.org. So enough of a plug for that. Let's drive on. So I'm just gonna start with kind of a top list of very, very simple, easy things you should do that are kind of in the no-brainer category. So, Anna, fill me in if you've done any of these, okay? I'm waiting to hear if you've done any. So the number one thing that is probably the easiest, and really nothing has a faster payback, is to upgrade your lighting to LED. And so the big things, the bulbs that you want to avoid are incandescent and halogen. And those are ones you actually should replace tonight. So, all right. So Anna, I want you tonight, your assignment is I want you to walk around your house, and if you see an incandescent or a halogen bulb, I just want you to smash it with a hammer, okay? Don't
all
even
of mine, they're done. I only have LED bulbs in my house. So we actually sent out a sustainability checklist for our first Tuesday, and that was, I think, one of the first questions is light bulbs. So how's everyone else doing? I'm curious to see how everyone else is doing with LED bulbs in their houses. So Feel free to let us know in the chat box.
Yeah. While people are chatting it in, I'm going to say that from now on, please don't buy any bulbs that are not LED. You can make an exception for your refrigerator bulb. How's that? But basically, if you already have compact fluorescents in a fixture, go ahead and use them. I guess let them go. But the main thing on those on compact fluorescents is they contain a small amount of mercury, so you want to make sure you don't throw those in a landfill. I went ahead and replaced all mine, I think it was like 6 years ago. So I was very excited because they were starting to get a lot more affordable. But the economics are just no brainer because it's not the cost of the bulb that matters. It's actually the energy that the bulb uses. And I'll try to give you an example of that. But a compact fluorescent uses roughly a fourth of the energy of an incandescent for the same amount of light, whereas an LED uses roughly a sixth, maybe even an eighth of the energy. So it's pretty impressive what you can get away with. The other thing is, I know this is silly, and this is a constant battle we have in my house, but is to turn off lights and ceiling fans and appliances or stuff when no one's in the room. And I don't even want to know the chat results on that poll. So, but anyway, I know it sounds silly, but listen to what your grandmother used to tell you and shut things off if you're not in the room. So that's easy. Here's a quick example. The math on lighting is actually unbelievably simple, and it overwhelms people, but it's actually quite easy. So this is a picture we took in a brand new home that we were doing doing some energy code assessments on. And this was a chandelier that had 9 60-watt bulbs in it. And my colleague was like, wow, I wonder how much that costs. And I said, how many hours a day? And he goes, 4. And I said, every day of the year? He goes, yeah. And so all you have to do is take the number of bulbs times the wattage. So in other words, the total wattage times the number of hours it's on gives you watt hours. And if you divide by 1,000, you get kilowatt hours. So it's really, really simple in that regard. And we pay more than this, but you can say, 12, I think I use 12.5 cents a kilowatt hour here. So under this scenario, you can see that we're using a lot of kilowatt hours in a year just to light this chandelier. And that's about $100 a year at 12.5 cents a kilowatt hour. We probably pay more, but just that's whatever. And then if you replace those with LEDs, you'll get the same amount of light. Instead of 60 watt, it's about a 9 watt, maybe a 10 watt, somewhere in there. 80 watts, same time, same operation, literally 1/6 of the energy used, literally 1/6 of the cost. So you went from about $100 to about $15. So that's a single fixture. So lighting really has a very, very fast payback, especially since the bulbs have become so affordable now. So again, nothing more no-brainer than efficient lighting. When it comes to appliances, the simple thing here is to pick Energy Star as your guide, I guess I'll say. I'm trying to watch my time. Just about any dishwasher you buy today is probably going to be Energy Star. That's very common and easy to get. Same for most refrigerators are going to make that. I would say the biggest issue I have with refrigerators are if you get a new one, obviously you want to make sure it's efficient, but get rid of your old one and really be careful about, I'll call it refrigeration creep. And I'll use my parents' house as an example. At one point I discovered that they had and I grew up in Rome, so not that far away. And I'm like, well, you have this full-size refrigerator, and then back in this pantry, you have another one. And it was probably Harvest Gold. So, that was from who knows what, the 70s. And then there's a stand-up freezer. And then they have an addition with a bar. And it's got a bar fridge and a wine cooler. I'm like, you have 5 pieces of refrigeration. And that's outrageous. So for 2 people. So it seems kind of silly. So, chipping away at that. Just appreciate that if you have 5 really efficient pieces of refrigeration, it probably still uses more energy than one that's even not efficient. So, be smart. Okay, Washers and dryers, the big thing on clothes washers is to try to get front loaders because they spin the clothes a lot faster and use less hot water. That's where most of the energy for washing clothes comes in. And there are new Energy Star clothes dryers that have sort of preset sensors and things like that. Bath fans. Okay, I want to make a pitch on this. Get a good quality, quiet, efficient bath fan. And if your bath fan makes a lot of noise, it's not efficient. It probably doesn't move much air. And also, those need to be ducted, usually with a bigger duct than cheesy 3-inch slinky kind of duct. So some details on bath fans. Bath fans are really, really important for helping to control moisture. It's, you know, it's the one room that typically is going to have a moisture issue in a house. And the other challenge is sometimes to get a family to run them adequately. So I was going to share, this is my, I put this in both of our bathrooms. I don't know how much it costs, probably 25 bucks, 20 bucks, a switch like this, that's a preset timer switch. So it's got 10, 20, 40, 60 minute presets on it. And all you do is you turn it on and it's going to run for at least a set amount of time. And I in the summer, well, it depends, you know, depending on how humidity is running, I'll sometimes, you know, set it for as low as 20 and as high as 60. Any questions?
Mike, we do have a question.
Yeah.
Carl wants to know, how bad is an old fridge in your garage?
Not a good place for it. Number one, the garage usually gets hot, and I get it. I mean, I'm not trying to dictate how you live, but the garage gets hot a lot of times. My mother-in-law lives in Austin, and she has one in her garage, and it's like, it's keeping, you know, some beer and Dr. Pepper cold. And it's really like, there's no reason she couldn't just put it all in the other refrigerator and manage it. There are actually devices you can buy that will allow you to monitor it. And sometimes you can even check these out from the library. So you can find, but it, you know, if it's Harvest Gold or Avocado Green, it's really an old refrigerator. Newer refrigerators are probably half the energy or less than an old refrigerator. So I don't know if that answers the question, but.
Yeah, Carl, feel free to let us know if you have other questions on that one.
Yeah.
Serena wants to know, what's the point of using a timer on a bathroom exhaust fan?
The idea is that you want it to run for a good chunk of time, but I don't generally want it to run all the time. And again, if it's quiet and it's efficient, running all the time is not the end of the world, but you know, I want it to run adequate amounts of time. And so when you take a shower, especially, you know, if it's fairly humid, I'm going to run it for a good long time. If I take a shower in the winter, I might run it a little bit of a shorter time. The other thing too is to think about this is, we sometimes call it the conservation of cubic feet. So we talk about the volume of air in cubic feet. And what are the dimensions of a cubic foot? Well, it's 12 inches by 12, you know, it's a shoebox, a milk crate roughly. And a bath fan is going to exhaust in the neighborhood of 50 cubic feet per minute. So remember, from an energy standpoint, whenever a cubic foot of air leaves your house, another one has to come in. And likewise, if you push in a bunch of CFM, cubic feet per minute, it has to leave. So just appreciate that. We want to exhaust and change air intelligently, but we don't want to do it more than we need to. And I just don't like a bath fan that runs all the time unless you have some better reason for it. Is that okay? All right. I'll drive on. We can answer more questions. Here's some more kind of straightforward things. If you cook and you have a kitchen hood, use it. And I'm talking about kitchen hoods that are ducted to the outside. Whoever came up with this idea of a recirculating hood should be, you know, removed. The other thing is that we're finding that kitchen hoods do a better job of drawing or pulling on the back burners. And that's unfortunate. We're really learning that kitchen hoods don't have what's called necessarily the best capture efficiency. So try to prefer the back burners. And this is true for both gas and electric. Gas, obviously you're burning a flame right there. You want to get all the products of combustion vented to outdoors. But even electric, typical electric range, there are some pollutants that are emitted when the metal is heated. And I think they're called acrylines, and I can't remember exactly if that's the right pronunciation. But there are pollutants that are not good for you that are when you heat metal pans. Turns out, if you really want to get obsessive about it, the best cook surfaces are induction. We actually we cook a lot. We have gas cooking, but we always run the exhaust hood and try to make sure, of course, it's ducting to the outside, and try to really minimize the use of the front burners. Ceiling fans can do a lot for you. They only cool you. They only really provide benefit when you're underneath them or within the room with them. So leaving a ceiling fan running all the time is actually just a waste of energy. They don't actually change the temperature of the air. They make you feel more comfortable because air is moving across your skin. And so that has an evaporative cooling effect, which it can actually save energy. In other words, if you're sitting under a ceiling fan and you're comfortable at, say, 78 degrees versus you're not moving any air and you set your thermostat to 75 degrees, you're going to definitely save energy because of raising your thermostat. This is one, and then a more efficient fans are, newer stuff. A brand that if I had the budget to afford it, there's a brand I really like called Haiku. They're just gorgeous, and they're these micro inverter driven motors. They're very, very efficient blades, really, built-in LED lighting, and they're like $800, so I can't afford them. But there are some, as a general tool, the larger diameter blades can move slower and move more air more efficiently. So something to be aware of. Okay, as a general rule, we're always big on saying, close your house up whenever you're running a heating or cooling system. And that is still true. I'm going to say we want to provide, in this day and age of a COVID pandemic, as much fresh air as we reasonably can. And a lot of homes do not have intentional ventilation systems. So, running a box fan, running a bath fan with a window open to really try to push air changes is not the worst thing in the world right now. And I realize I'm sort of contradicting what I was saying earlier. And that's because we're in a pandemic. From a health standpoint, air changes, fresh air in a building is a good thing. I like to know where air comes in from. So I'm a big proponent of what we call positive pressure or balanced ventilation system. There are 2 webinars if you want to learn a lot more about how to do fresh air, how much, and ways to do it on how to do it. And I talk about what I did in my house. I retrofitted an energy recovery ventilator system. I honestly haven't run it much in the spring and summer because we open our windows very regularly. And especially when the weather's like it has been this time over the weekend and today, we tend to open our windows. And we don't run the air conditioner when the windows are open. But I might give you a pass during a pandemic to get some amount of fresh air in. As a general rule, we don't want to air condition all of Atlanta. We just want to air condition the air inside your house. So I hope that helps. Let's talk about filters. Okay, so we recommend you change your filter every Olympic year. No, that's probably not enough. That's this picture right here. A 1-inch filter in your HVAC system is really not there to protect your health. It's there to protect the equipment. And even though you can buy a better quality 1-inch filter, it's still fairly limited of what you can do. I am a big advocate of a better quality filter that is thicker or deeper, and it's going to allow you to have a better success of catching particulates, which is what we care about in our lungs, that are on the smaller size. 2.5 microns is a size particle. Sometimes it's called PM, particulate matter 2.5, which is what it means. Those are captured in a thicker pleated filter, and that's getting on into the size of the COVID virus particles. So I'll show you some of that in a second. So this is usually going to involve you having to pay someone to upgrade your duct system, Or if you're lucky, it may not, and I'll show you what I mean. But when your filter loads up, it actually works better and better. The dirtier the filter is, the better it works. However, there's a point where no air can go through, and that just kills your HVAC system. So you really have to kind of walk a tightrope here on this. Let me give you an idea of a typical, lousy filter is going to load up very quickly and have a lot of pressure drop across it, even when it's brand new. Whereas this is a good example of a pleated filter that has a lot of effective surface area. If you were to open this up like an accordion, it would unfold. It would, give you 10 feet of length on it, and it would have a lot of effective surface area. So it's because of all that surface area, it's very low pressure drop, and yet you can have a really good filter. And you get down into the MERV 13 range, you're, even MERV, any better filter is going to help. But the higher the MERV, that's a term, filter is going to do a better job at catching things like virus, even. And so something to be aware of. If, this is just some pictures about, don't accept this. I can't change my filter because it hits my water heater. Whoops, I'm sorry. If you have a ducted system like this, you're going to probably have to pay someone to install an aftermarket, sort of enclosure to accept a thicker filter. If you're lucky and you have what's called like a filter grill, which is where your filter is located right there, you can actually, it's designed for a 1-inch thick filter. This is designed for like a 20 by 20 1-inch filter. But this company and others have come up with this really brilliant idea. We can get a 5-inch deep filter into a 1-inch filter grill because the filter actually goes inside the wall cavity. So that's pretty clever. That's one brand that I think is really pretty cool. And you want to make sure your ducts don't leak, and that means your filter access. So you can also buy these little things. They're like $10, or you can make one out of refrigerator magnets and plastic. But you're trying to seal up your filter access so that you don't have what's called filter bypass. A lot of times the filter is located up in an attic, and you really don't want to be sucking in attic air, for example. Any questions on filter, let me know. Here's what is happening to your house on a hot summer day. You are getting heat coming from the sun to a typical attic, and it travels by radiation. There's 3 types of heat transfer. Radiation is from a hot surface to a cooler surface. So the sun is radiating heat to your shingles. They are absorbing that heat, and they're solid materials, and they're sitting on usually wood solid decking. And so heat transfers through a solid material via conduction. So the heat conducts underneath. And here's where it gets interesting. The underside of the roof decking gets really, really hot. If you look at it with, and I'm going to show you a picture later, if you looked at it with an infrared camera, it gets to be 170 degrees, really, really hot. And it's glowing red hot, and it emits heat to other surfaces in the attic. The other surfaces are typically things like insulation, framing, and because we were stupid, ductwork. We should never put ductwork up in an oven, but we do. So, so the radiation of all that heat down causes the air molecules, particularly around the insulation, to start to warm up. And I bet you know the answer. Warm air does what? What does warm air want to do?
Rise, right?
Rises up, yep. And cold air wants to sink. So what happens in a typical attic is the warm air rises up, and we put openings at the top. We put a ridge vent. So, a cubic foot of air rises up and vents out, and it's, maybe 125 degree air, and it's being replaced by air that's 90 degrees. So that's an example of a fluid changing out, and that's convective. So that's what happens in a typical attic. And a lot of people think, oh, I want to keep my attic cooler. I'm going to try to enhance the amount of ventilation I have. And I'm just going to tell you, there's nothing wrong with more attic ventilation as long as it's all done passively. But the reality is it provides very little benefit. Nobody has enough vents, so don't worry about it. Just do what the code says and don't worry about it. And the code doesn't have enough, and it's silly. So what I don't want you to do is put a power attic vent fan, because these fans, while they will cool your attic, they don't discriminate. They suck air from the attic, and whenever you see more than one. So let's just say 750 CFM is being exhausted out of your attic. That means 500 is coming from the outside. Well, guess what? 250 comes from your house. It comes through leaks in the ceiling and leaks in your duct system. So we really don't like those fans. If you have them, I strongly recommend you shut them off. They do cool the attic, but they use air-conditioned air to cool the attic. They're not a good idea. So we don't want to do that. I'll show you, if you want to keep your attic cool, there's a couple better ways to do that. I'm going to tease you with that and get to that in just a second. Let's focus on this part of the roof, the ceiling right here, though. It's where you have insulation on the flat. And these are all areas where my insulation coverage really isn't very good. There's a canned light, there's some attic access, there's a whole house fan, there's a knee wall without any good insulation, and there's, you know, again, canned light again. You can see that's not very airtight and that's not very well insulated. And that's our goal, is to do those two things well. So we want to air seal, particularly the flat ceiling. Any kind of penetration through it is really critical. And often, to do this right, you have to get up in the attic and fish around, move insulation, and find out where the wires and the plumbing pokes through. I'll show you some pictures of that. But here's two things you could probably seal from the house side, although that's too big of a gap to caulk right there for that bath fan. And that's a cheapy bath fan that's going to make a lot of noise. Here's a trick. A lot of times we find air leakage in houses with attached garages. And what we're looking for is blocking and insulation that's been, you know, in this location. You can even get clever and you can cut a little hole and put your phone up there and take a picture or a video. And what you're trying to see is something like this. You want to see the presence of blocking. It could be foam board, it can be wood, and you can tell it's been sealed. If you can see all the way through, or if you see a bad of insulation and there's no air barrier with it, that's a problem. Here's another diagram kind of from the inside. This is under new construction, but we're showing the need for blocking, air sealing, and some insulation. So that's a little trick you can do. Your attic access, these are things you can absolutely go after. If you have a scuttle hole or a hatch, you want to basically build a little pizza like you see in this, and make sure it seals and both insulates. And these boards here are a dam. I'll show these. They keep loose fill insulation from falling in. Here's some detail on all this. This is one we did for some weatherization stuff we were doing. We always do I live in Decatur, and we do a big weatherization project for seniors' homes around MLK weekend. And so a lot of these are volunteers that help on this. So you kind of build up layers. We use MASTIC to glue stuff together. You're making like a sheet cake, put a couple nails in it to hold it till it dries, and we even put some weight on it. That's what it looks like. And you can glue a bat to the top of that if you want. This is where it's going to go, is down here. There's some weather stripping. I just wanted to show you some details here. We also air sealed, and then we blew insulation in. Before we blew the insulation in, we built a dam around the attic access, and this is a raised platform with insulation under it, so you can get somewhere. And these little details, a lot of times, are not done right or done at all, and so people taper the insulation. You want your coverage to really be continuous. So here we are, weather stripping underneath, and that's what it looks like when it's done. And that really is now very airtight and very consistent insulation coverage. Here's some pull down stairs. You can do cover boxes from the top. You got to make sure that you put them back. There's one that comes from underneath. You can build a cover box like this out of foam board, and I use MASTIC to glue stuff together and a couple nails. I find cutting foam board really easy if you have a table saw or a circular saw. You can also get an insulation board that's in the stairs itself. This is my sister's house in Greenville, South Carolina. I was like, get one of these stairs and let's build you a cover box, because it doesn't hurt to do both. You can glue a bat to the top of this box as well. The zippers, they work, they're great, they make it nice and airtight. They don't have much insulation in them. I did find a company, and I don't know who it is, that has a little place where you can open it up and it's a pocket you can put an insulation bat inside of. So those are some nice little features. If you have a whole house fan, we generally recommend you do something kind of similar. We make a foam board cover, and we put a real lightweight piece of laminate on it and some lightweight trim around the edges and kind of glue it up. This is from this January's house that had it. It was the biggest one I've ever seen. I'm trying to show you how large it is. Normally, I can put this up by myself, and I just use one little bolt in the middle with a wing nut and a washer to hold it. This was so big, I had to use 3. I mean, it was massive. But the homeowner said, yep, I'm going to keep using my fan. So if you're not going to ever use it, you might as well take it out and drywall it. But if you're going to use it, just make sure it's insulated and airtight when it's in the summer and the winter. Also, details in the attic. I like to have a pathway, a catwalk to get to the other side. So here you can see a couple pictures. This was actually my own attic. I built this first, and then we did a radiant barrier project I'm going to talk about. And the idea is it's elevated, it's got insulation in it, and then I can come back and add more loose fill insulation, as you see. So I got to do all the air sealing details and then do loose fill. This is another attic, just simple approach. To kind of lead into radiant barriers, you can keep your attic cooler also from the roof side. If you specify what's an Energy Star roofing material, it's usually a lighter color and less absorptive. And things like metal roofs can be a lot less absorptive. You can get a Kynar coating on them. So there are ways to sort of cut down the solar gain on the exposed side, but you can also address this issue of a typical attic that the decking over here gets really, really hot on a hot afternoon, and it radiates all this heat down. So what you're going to do is put this product up called Radiant Barrier, and it's just basically aluminum foil or something shiny. And technically what it is, it's a low emitting surface. So that's kind of, you know, the big way that it works is it's hot. It'll still be this temperature, but it won't emit heat like bare wood does. So you kind of have to trust me on that one. You can put it at the bottom of the rafters. You can put it between the rafters. You can have it pre-attached to the roof deck. So if you're ever going to retrofit it, it's probably something like, and I'll show you some pictures of what I did, something like this. And if you're going to build a new roof or redeck your roof, I highly, and if it's going to be a vented roof, you should buy this product called Radiant Barrier Sheathing, or one brand is Tech Shield. There's several manufacturers of this. It's basically OSB, oriented strand board, with foil already glued to it, and it's got a million little holes poked in it so it won't trap moisture in it. It allows it to sort of breathe through. If I were going to do a vented roof line, then I would absolutely use this. This is very little added cost to do a whole house with this, and immediate benefits. So very hard to screw it up as long as the foil faces down and doesn't touch anything. That's the key. So it touches the rafters in a couple places, but for the most part it doesn't. So this is part of my own attic. I had started doing this project about 15 years ago and finally finished it this spring. It is a good DIY project. You want to do it when it's cool in the attic. So I worked on it in the morning, and I got some help and knocked it out. I worked on it for like between 15 and 60 minutes every day. I did it for 30 days in a row, and I got it done. So I tried to do it in the morning. Sometimes I only did a token amount. The stuff I used was really cheap. It was basically paper with foil on one side. I recruited some house elves to help me. These are really good. That's Winky and Dobby, the house elves over there. I don't know if that's making you laugh or not, Anna. And we, you know, just pushed it down, and because it was paper, we found that if we just used some little pieces of cut up cereal box, I was a little worried it was going to pull the staple through over time. So that's kind of what we did. But you just staple it up, and what's cool about it, you don't have to be perfect. Radiant Barrier, you get 80% coverage, you get 80% benefit. So you don't have to be perfect. And if you can't get a section, don't worry about it. Do what you can. So that's nice. And it really does, that's an almost finished picture there. It really does keep the attic cooler, because while this foil gets hot, it does not emit heat by radiation. And I'll share some of our energy costs when we get done. I'll tell you a little bit about what we did, some of the other stuff we did. I also put solar panels on our roof about 3.5 years ago, and they're on this side of the roof, which I had already done with Radiant Barrier. That's the south side. And that part of the roof stays even cooler because the solar panels are sort of blocking most of the solar energy. Oops, and there's a happy picture of me and my daughter. That was the last day, so we were excited. a big project you can do that really does save a tremendous amount of energy is to seal ductwork with MASTIC. MASTIC is the only allowed sealant in the state of Georgia, and that's been in our code for a number of years because, frankly, tape just fails. It just does not work. So you can buy MASTIC in a tub. It's about 20 bucks a gallon. Try to use 3 gallons of it. I mean, it's really great. So I fix everything with MASTIC. So I've glued bricks back onto sidewalks that kept falling off. I glued a brick onto a building. I fixed my wife's shoe with it. It's really impressive stuff. It's non-toxic. I try to get the kind with little fibers in it. Gives it an number 6. This is a good one. I'm trying to think what else. Don't use the tape. You can assemble and stuff with tape, but then cover it with MASTIC. They do actually make a hybrid called MASTIC tape, which is real thick, but it's very expensive. So this is the cheap way to go. You can also buy it from an HVAC supply house. It's much cheaper if you buy it from them than, say, a big box store. Just go in and pay cash. They'll take it. It's not illegal for them to sell you. They can't sell you an air conditioner, but they can sell you MASTIC. And don't ever use gray cloth duct tape. You can fix anything with gray cloth duct tape except ducts. Okay, just making sure we got that across. Where do you want to seal? Well, you know, it's going to usually leak at the connections, and if the connections are done right in Georgia, which there's no guarantee of that, they were sealed with MASTIC, like you see in this picture. You can inspect and look for this. If you find this, you can go back and coat the outside with MASTIC. Can work on the inside or the outside. It's better here, but it can work on the outside. And a lot of times there's leakage at your air handler cabinet and things like that as well. There's a whole webinar about this as well. You can learn more. One of the easy things to get at is at the boots, and you can do it from the attic side. You can seal, you can just cover this with MASTIC, and it's not going to leak through the metal, but it can leak at the seam. And it can leak at these crimp connections, and it can leak where it connects to the house. So you can cover any of these joints or seams and this connection with MASTIC. You can use a paintbrush. Some people use like a latex glove because it is messy, so wear old clothes. You can even do it from the inside. You can reach up inside and do it from the inside. So I'll show you some pictures of that again. And you don't want it on the out. You don't want it out here. It doesn't hurt anything. But the seal is the liner, which is inside. So you want it on the sort of this black liner connection as opposed to the silver part on the outside. It doesn't hurt if it's on the silver, but it's not sealing the duct. Okay, so here's an existing home. First thing we like to do is just do an inspection. And I usually pull all the registers and we'll just check. Do you see any daylight? Do you see any disconnected ducts? If it's accessible in the crawl space, get in there, just look around, or in the attic, just look and see if anything is clearly disconnected. If it is, reconnect it. But generally, what we'll do is we'll pull all the registers, we get a shop vac, and you reach in as far as you can and you clean out the duct just as much as you can. And if it's in the wall or if it's in the floor, you vacuum it out. And then you take MASTIC and you start as far in as you can get and you work your way back out. It kind of makes sense. If you start from the inner part and work your way in, you get MASTIC in your armpit. So don't do that, okay? I can't tell if Anna was laughing. Anna wasn't laughing at my joke, but that's okay. That's all right. And it's pretty, it's fun. It's messy, but it's fun. And try not to get it on your clothes. If you get it on your clothes, wash it off right away, but wear old clothes. And I usually try to just use a glove or use my hand and goop and reach in and swirl it around and work your way out. And then seal the boot to the subfloor or to the wall or whatever. Like you see in this example, he's sealing it to the ceiling. You can use caulk or MASTIC. And these are people that have helped volunteer on this. So that's probably my last big thing. I don't know if anybody has window unit air conditioners, you know, I don't know if most people here probably don't, but we have a central system, but we also have window unit that honestly, I run this a lot more because when I run the window unit, I can actually produce more electricity with my solar panels and not, in other words, I can still net export electricity if I just cool our house with this. So a lot of times we'll just do this. But if you run your central system, it may overwhelm it. In terms of HVAC, I'm a big advocate of the mini splits or any kind of equipment that has automatically variable speed. That's kind of what you want. If you have a window unit, this woman left her window units in her windows year round. So this is what we did for winter. We insulated the sides with foam board, and you can put tape on them or paint them to make them look nice. And then we covered everything with plastic. And then of course the window has a gap here. Oh, sorry, a gap here that you want to seal off. And we just put a piece of pipe insulation there. And in the summer, when you want to use it, you can just take a knife or scissors and cut this edge, let the flap hang down, and then we're like, just tape it back up. So anyway, that's probably something people don't want to do. On our website, under resources library, somewhere buried in there is this very horribly titled Energy and Water Efficiency Project Implementation Verification Checklist. That just rolls off the tongue. I need to clean it up, but I made this a couple years ago. It's just what if you're going to take on a project like, you know, seal ducts or pay someone to foam your roof line, or you're going to upgrade the insulation in your attic, what do you need to do first? And what are some things you need to be aware of? So it's got projects like that. And it's just designed, it's not very pretty. It's not a pretty document. It's just a Word file, but it's designed to kind of give you a checklist of questions to either ask a contractor if you're subbing it out, or to address if you're doing it yourself. And so that's a good resource. And then lastly, I want to again pitch these webinars. Like, one of the big things that we did on our own house was to fix up our crawl space. And I did that, it's probably been 7 or 8 years ago, but our crawl space used to be vented. And in the winter, a lot of cold air would come in through the vents and leak right up through the floor, even though the floor was quote, quote, insulated. It was terrible. And so I upgraded the furnaces, I fixed the foundation drainage, I insulated the walls of the crawl space, I removed all the old underfloor insulation. That crawl space is now basically conditioned. And I put a dedicated dehumidifier in there to keep it dry, which is what we're conditioning it for. And now that was a big project, but that makes, that cut our heating by over 40%. And I can actually document it because I tracked my energy bills. I wasn't sure how nerdy to go here. So Anna, if we have any questions, I'm going to open up something that, are you seeing this? I can't even tell. Are you seeing my screen?
I am seeing it. Yep. Kathy is taking notes, but no questions yet. So. Okay,
good. Well, I hope I overwhelmed you with way too much data. So that's what I'm going to show you here. No, I think what is actually kind of neat is I'm going to look at, I'm just going to plot it. This is what I do. So I'm tracking our home energy bills forever and ever. And I thought I'd show you that this is gas. So this is natural gas usage. And we basically, the first full winter that we bought our house in December of '99, and the first full winter that we were in it, you can see the red is consumption. And for that winter, winter is about 7 months. It's when you, somewhere in that ballpark, 6, 7 months. And so we used 573 therms of natural gas, okay? And a therm is 100,000 BTUs, if that means anything. And that was our first full winter. And you can see the effect of weatherizing our home and making it more efficient over time. So as time goes along, and one of the biggest things I did was, I think it was right in here, somewhere in this winter, is we sealed up our crawl space. It probably didn't get finished till January, but you can see that our gas heat was, you know, dropped to below, and it's averaging below 200 now. It's around 200. Last winter it was 165. It was 213 before that. It was 184 and so it's a little bit weather dependent. But you can see the last 5 or last 8 winters have all been, you know, pretty low, and that's because of all the improvements I've done on the house. But a big one was closing up the crawl space. So it's a very big project. I'm going to suggest you might want to look at the webinar we did about that. The other thing I thought I'd show you is electricity. And again, try to not go too crazy with the graphs. So it's just fun. Who doesn't love graphs? Let's see. Let's slide way over here. I'll try to find the electricity. And also, you know, tracking our electrical costs. This is kind of neat because the red line is the sum total costs of gas and electricity. And so right in here, things shot up. That's because we had kids. So now there's 4 people living in the house. And so particularly our electricity went way up. but you can also see here when it dropped way down. And it dropped way down because of our solar panels, which were installed right here. So let me see if I can show you where that is. Hold on just a sec. Okay, so this is our electricity consumption, and it was, the dark line is consumption, the blue line is what we paid, and I'll you know, and you can also, whoops, sorry about that. You can also see where, I'll show you when our utility rates increased. Somewhere starting around 2007, our utility rates went up. So the blue line is now shifting above the dark line in terms of what we're paying for the same amount. And also somewhere right in here, let's dismiss all of that. Somewhere right in here where we have kids and nannies and all this stuff. So our consumption went up, and then it starts to come back down a little bit. And then it dropped dramatically when we put solar panels on. So our typical consumption in a year's time for electricity was running, I'm gonna just get away from all this, I swear. You're not gonna be overwhelmed, I promise. It was running, if you look at our last several years, we were running around 6,000 kilowatt hours a year, which is way below average. So we're running about 6,000 kilowatt hours a year. And then once we got our solar installed, we're down about half of that, so 3,000. And our utilities for electricity were running around $1,000 a year for the last 6 or 7 years before we had solar. And now they're running around 400 and so. And actually, it's got even better because of some net metering stuff. So we're looking at, I think our utility is going to drop to about $300 a year. So that's attractive. And our solar array is pretty small. I'll show you a quick picture of that. There's a picture of mine. And we have a good south-facing roof. So that's easy to get at. And I have 15 solar panels up there. It's 4,000 watts. So that's a pretty small array. And the panels we used almost 4 years ago are 270 watt panels. The panels that you can get today are 325, 335 watt panels. You can go crazy with them. And you should also, all of y'all should look at this thing called Solarize 2.0, which is available. Anna, you're Fulton County, right?
I am, yes.
Yeah, it was Decatur, DeKalb, and it's only through the end of this month. So you absolutely should sign up for this and get a free quote on a solar system on your roof. And with the tax credit this year still being 26%, it's going to drop next year. This is a very good year to do it. And the Solarize program is an unbelievably good deal for it. It's cheaper than what I paid 4 years ago, if you can believe that. And that's because of the tax credit and the price going down. So.
We did some work with the commercial aspect of Solarize Atlanta. We have a team that was working on that. So, but I'm personally really interested in solar panels myself. What's the buyback time for?
So I'll share with you our numbers, and I'm just going to do it because I got it right here. We've saved, well, it's not quite up to date, but we've saved almost $2,000 on our electricity bills in the last 3.5 years. So we're saving, and like I said, it actually gets a lot better. They had to go back and do a credit for this year from January 1 because the Public Service Commission, whatever, sort of told Georgia Power that they have to provide this, basically a degree of net metering. So it actually really helped our bills for this year. So our bills dropped dramatically. And that was the kind of the credit I got. So instead of a $22 bill in January, it was, I think it was $12.79, I think is what it was. I'm going to have to not promise I know what the numbers are, but like my April bill was, I think it was $12, and then $15 was May, something like that. Anyway, so that was really attractive, and that helps the payback be a lot better. They have to pay back anything surplus you generate. Let me show you one other kind of cool thing. And anything surplus you generate, this is our array. and this was last week. Let's see, this is our array live, what has actually happened so far today, if it'll just update. So at the moment, you can see we used energy at night. We didn't have much going on. We had some fans on. And then as the day comes up, and it's partly cloudy today, so we're not getting a nice bell curve here, but anything in blue that is what we produce. Anything in orange is what we consumed. And you can see for this 15-minute period, we just about broke even. We produced almost exactly what we used. And for this one, the same one. Anything dark blue means we've actually netted surplus. And so under the old system, they have to buy it, but they don't have to pay much for it. So they only paid, instead of 12 cents, they paid about 3 or 4 cents for it. But under the new provision I just talked about, they actually have to pay you the full amount up to what you use in a month. So that's actually makes the payback even better. In other words, I wasn't making the best payback because I was selling too much back, if that makes any sense. So for the day so far, we've used about 9 and consumed about 10. So we're in the hole by 1, but you know, it should get better in a little while. And also, let me show you an example of like, April 15th was a good day. So that day we made 21, and there's a good bell curve where you can see the sun coming up producing lots, and then as the sun falls down, we made 21. Our house only used about 10. It's nice weather, not much going on. So, so that was a good day where we exported 11, and under the old scenario, they had to pay for it, but they didn't pay that much for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Does anyone else have questions about solar panels?
And I decided a long time ago, I'm just going to be very transparent with my actual costs and what it would be. So I'm happy to share this, and I love to talk smack about energy stuff. But I'm just going to say that, you know, we used to say historically, we would say, you know, people get excited about solar, and we'd almost kind of talk them out of it. We'd say, well, before you do that, you need to do efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. And then we said solar hot water, and then you'd look at PV. Well, solar hot water, forget it. Solar PV is so much more affordable. Make the electricity and use it to make hot water, you know, that kind of thing. But the economics on solar photovoltaic panels are really good. And I would say efficiency is still really, really attractive, but solar gets in there a lot lower now at a lot faster payback. So I think it's one of those things where it's kind of hard to lose on it, especially if you have good solar orientation and not a lot of trees to shade it. But we used to say, oh, you know, you need a lot of south-facing roof, and that's true. But today the panels are so affordable, even if you have east and west roof, you can put them on the east, put them on the west, and some of the panels work really well in the summer, in the morning, and some work really well in the afternoon. So anyway, check into it. It doesn't cost anything to get a quote on it. And I have absolutely no, I don't get any kind of kickback for this sales pitch for them. So, you know, I don't sell solar
I sent a link. Yeah, we don't either. I sent a link for the Solarize if anyone's interested in that.
If you're in Fulton or DeKalb and you don't do this, you're really missing out. But you need to do it very, very soon because it only goes to the end of this month. And they're going to get slammed with people wanting to sign up. So I strongly encourage you to look into it. Okay, cool. Well, I know I rambled on there, but I covered everything I wanted to, and I got to show you graphs. So, you know, this is my conclusion slide right here, which is to put it out there, do good things. It's a tough time right now, but set good examples, be safe, and you know, let's lick this thing and get past it.
Awesome. I appreciate your time, Mike. This was really informative, and I've already thought about my attic is right behind me here, and so I've been thinking about the stuff that needs to happen. I actually have an attic fan that was suggested by the when they check your house,
a blower door test. Yeah.
And they were like, you need to have an attic fan because your attic is too hot up there. And it's definitely.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's not a blower door test. Yeah, they're talking about a power attic ventilator fan, and I am telling you, don't do it.
Well, I'm going to connect you to my husband, and you can tell him we don't need it.
You don't need it. What now? If you want to add more vents, that's fine. Just don't use a fan. Okay.
Interesting.
You can use turtle. They're caps or vent. There's turbines. There's ridge vent, and you know what? You're going to do all this, and it's going to have almost no impact on anything. But it's going to make you feel better. Just don't use a fan, because if you put a fan up there, I guarantee it's going to suck air-conditioned air from your house up into the attic. And every cubic foot of conditioned air that goes up into the attic has to be replaced by one leaking in from somewhere else. So don't do that.
Yep, I'm on it. This has been fantastic. If anyone has any questions or thoughts on weatherizing your home, I entered Mike's email, and we will also be, Southface has provided a blog article that will be posted at some point today. So that'll be on our website live, and we'll share that on the Better Habits, Better You website for you to link to directly. And it'll also be in our newsletter that should go out on Friday. So we've got lots of extra points for you, and hopefully you got some great insight on how to make your house more energy efficient, especially while working from home.
So. Yeah. Thank you so much, Anna. Thanks everybody for hanging with us. It was really fun.
All right. Have a great one, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.